And welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. As always, we go live on social media first, and then all sources linked up at diabetes-connections.com when this airs as a podcast. Are you looking to get organized? Diabetes supplies can really add up, and all that pump and CGM stuff, or even shots and wipes and strips, can clutter everything up. I've got a great new guide to help you out. I'll get you started and keep you organized. It is totally free, and it's over on the podcast homepage. In the news this week, a new study adds to the idea that vitamin D might help with type 1 diabetes in kids. These researchers looked at young people ages 10 to 21 and found that a supplement of vitamin D2 may improve insulin sensitivity and slow the increase of A1C for those newly diagnosed. This was over the course of a year, very small study, fewer than 50 kids and teens, all of them diagnosed for 3 months or less. A lot more to learn here, but the study is in the Journal of the Endocrine Society. This one is more business type news, but something to keep an eye on. Ross Vivo has signed with Eli Lilly for commercial development. Ross Vivo has a drug said to be a game changer to treat diabetes and obesity. Lilly will now review and move it forward. The drug is said to restore the function of beta cells that secrete insulin, the cause of diabetes, and at the same time lower insulin resistance. Animal studies only, but we are keeping an eye on this one. Provention Bio has resubmitted the biologics license application for teplizumab. This is the drug that shows a delay of clinical type 1 diabetes for 3 years. Now, the FDA said no last year, but it did so in a way that left the door open. So Provention has done what's been asked and is now resubmitting. The CEO says, quote, "We continue to proceed with a sense of urgency, recognizing that significant unmet need exists for patients and their caregivers." The link between high blood pressure and diabetes seems to come down to a small protein cell. An international team shows this glucagon-like peptide called GLP-1 pairs up the body's control of blood sugar and blood pressure. Now, doctors have known for a long time that high blood pressure and diabetes go together, but this is the first time the reason for that has been found in the body. GLP-1 is released from the wall of the gut after eating. It also stimulates a small sensory organ in the neck. These researchers say GLP-1 is just the start for more study. And more support for bariatric surgery as a treatment for type 2. A study found that adults with obesity who had weight loss surgery and achieved substantial weight loss before contracting COVID reduced their risk for severe infection by 60% compared to those who didn't have surgery. This study conducted at the Cleveland Clinic. Previous studies have found that in obese patients with type 2, bariatric surgery can send it into remission more than 75% of the time. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, endocrinologists have had the highest rates of telehealth adoption. This study, released by Doximity, we've spoken to them on the show, looked at telehealth claims from January 2020 to June of 2021. As expected, younger physicians used telehealth more than their older counterparts. And they say the research shows that telehealth can successfully help manage diabetes, that it even lowers A1C in people with type 2. And they don't say why. I think that maybe it's because it's easier to get a visit in remotely. Interestingly, they did a top 5 for metro areas with the highest telehealth adoption, and they were Boston, Baltimore, Charlotte, Philly, and San Francisco. The World Health Organization is looking for people with diabetes for an international focus group. They say they hope to foster solidarity and policy action between people living with diabetes while acknowledging differences in treatment and management needs between different types of diabetes. The focus group will be held March 9th and 10th, live and online, and I will link up the survey you need to fill out to be considered. An ambitious project to make a movie about type 1 diabetes in a dystopian world is moving along via Kickstarter. Noah Averbach-Katz is an actor and writer, and he's lived with type 1 for more than 20 years. He says too often a disabled person is reduced to a plot point, a problem that gives the abled hero an opportunity to save the day. He wants to tell a story that captures the fears, trials, and experiences of a type 1 diabetic. Interestingly, along with the diabetes community, the Star Trek community is rallying behind this. Averbach-Katz and his wife, Mary Weissman, are both part of the Star Trek Discovery series. The Kickstarter goes until March 24th. As we hinted last week, Omnipod has a fun crossover with Nintendo. The very popular Switch game Animal Crossing now has a new diabetes themed design by Insulet. It's known as Omnipod Bay. You add it to the game with a special code. Omnipod Bay features booths from selected diabetes charities, as well as outfits, diabetes supply bags, and diabetes themed areas and activities. I asked, he had no little podcast headphones as of this time. The game add on comes just 2 weeks after Insulet's Omnipod 5 was cleared by the FDA. Our long format episode this week is with Lauren Bongiorno, a diabetes health coach who is a terrific example of why it is not a great idea to aim for perfection with diabetes. She shares how her A1C was basically perfect during college, but that she was miserable. Next week, our episode will be all about Eversense, the 6-month CGM just approved by the US FDA, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. That is in the news for this week. If you like it, please share it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you back here soon.